I took our son to visit my wife on set, and her lover told me to get lost. It was a long holiday weekend, so I took my son to visit his mother on her film set. Just as we arrived, a motorhome swerved past me and cut me off, nearly causing a rear-end collision. After I parked, a man stormed out of the other vehicle, fuming. "Are you blind? Can't you see this is a reserved spot?" I was about to argue with him when I realized the motorhome looked familiar. Wasn't that the birthday gift I'd given my wife, Willow Hayes? And the watch on the man's wrist, wasn't that the limited edition model Willow had given me? The man was dripping with arrogance. I just asked calmly, "Is this your motorhome?" "Of course it is. My girlfriend gave it to me." "What's it to you? You tourists need to open your eyes and look around." "This area is for the production crew only," he grumbled. "The set security is useless, letting any old riff-raff wander in." With that, he slid on a pair of sunglasses, turned and stalked away, still muttering under his breath. I watched him go, and couldn't help but snort. Willow had told me she was swamped with work on set and couldn't spend the holiday with me. So, this was what she was up to, a little on-set romance. I was so furious I almost laughed. I got back in my car, started the engine, reversed, and then slammed my foot on the gas, crashing right into the motorhome. After the deafening crunch of metal, I sat calmly in my car and called the police. Hearing the noise, the man came rushing back out. When he saw the scene, his eyes nearly popped out of his head. "Are you insane?" he screamed. "You did that on purpose." I raised an eyebrow and got out of the car with my son. Facing his rage, I said coolly, "The motorhome belongs to Willow Hayes, not you. Why are you so worked up?" Hearing this, he looked me up and down, then glanced at my son, and the realization dawned on him. "So you're the creepy old stalker Willow told me she's not interested in you, but you won't stop harassing her, using your investment as an excuse to get her on the casting couch, and now you've chased her all the way out here." He started shouting to the gathering crowd, "Everyone, come and look at this, a shameless old man trying to seduce my girlfriend, using his power to prey on actresses. How dare you show your face on this set?" After pulling something so disgusting, people around us started pointing and whispering. Willow and I had been secretly married for 12 years. Our son, Julian, was 10. Who was the shameless one here? Julian couldn't stand it. "That's not true," he shouted. "Mom said she was going to spend the day with me." "Bah! Don't you learn from your father, kid? Home wrecking is a bad look," the man spat. "I'm feeling generous today, so I won't make a big deal about you crashing my vehicle. Now get the hell out of here." Watching him stand there on his moral high ground, even trying to rally the crew against me, I simply dangled my phone. "Willow Hayes and I are legally married. This motorhome is mine. I crashed my own vehicle. Do I need your generosity for that? If you don't believe me, let's have Willow Hayes come out here and set the record straight." My words made him sneer. "In your dreams, Willow said you're obsessed with her. She only took this directing job to get away from you. You think she wants to see you? Not a chance." He gestured to the crew members around him. "Get him out of here. A lot of money has been invested in this film. We can't have homewreckers on set." As the crowd surged forward, with some even yelling for him to hit me, I bellowed, "Who dares touch me? I've already called the police." I pulled out my phone to call Willow, but he was faster, slapping it out of my hand and onto the ground. "Trying to call for backup? I can't stand rich trash like you who think you own the world." The one who spoke was a crew member standing next to the man. I recognized him. He was a distant relative of Willow's, Zane Miller. He used to be her driver until I fired him for a DUI. He'd clearly been holding a grudge and was now more than happy to twist the truth. "Zane Miller, he doesn't recognize me, but you do, don't you?" Zane, who reeked of alcohol even in the middle of the day, squinted at me with disdain. "Don't try to act familiar with me. Ethan," he said, turning to the other man, "we can't let him off this easy. Make him pay. Intentional destruction of property means jail time." A few others chimed in. Bolstered by the support, Ethan Vance's confidence surged. He pointed a finger at me. "This motorhome is worth over $500,000. With it damaged, I can't keep to my schedule. You'll have to compensate the production for all the delays, too. I'm calling my lawyer right now. I'm going to make sure you rot in a jail cell. You'd better start thinking about how you're going to beg me for forgiveness." At that, I couldn't help but laugh. "If you can prove today that this vehicle belongs to you, then it's only fair that I pay. It doesn't matter if it's mine or not, you're the one who crashed it." I nodded. "I am." "So what?" "So you have to pay for the damages. I'm sorry, but while it's true I crashed the vehicle, you still have to prove it's yours. I had bought the motorhome for Willow, but the title was in my name. She only had permission to use it. Never mind him. Not even Willow herself could prove ownership." Ethan Vance's face turned crimson. "Don't you try that legal mumbo-jumbo on me, everyone. Look, this shameless man crashed a vehicle and won't even admit fault," someone in the crowd added. "If you break something, you pay for it. That's basic decency. I saw him do it. He sped up and rammed right into it. There must be something wrong with him. That motorhome looks expensive. It's gotta be worth a fortune." Ethan smirked at me. "See that?" "I have witnesses," I scoffed. "Fine. Let's wait for the police. You'd better start thinking about what you'll do when you can't produce any proof of ownership." A smug look crossed Ethan's face. "You should be the one thinking about how you're going to pay up. Just wait until Willow gets here. She'll make you regret this." I stared at him coldly, my arm around my son's shoulders, my expression sharp. Ethan had clearly never encountered anyone like me, and he began to look flustered and angry. Zane piped up from the side. "You really are shameless. Once the cops get here, you'll find out you messed with the wrong people." "Exactly. My girlfriend is Willow Hayes. A big shot director," Ethan added, his face a mask of contempt. "Look, old man, you've been stalking her, and now you show up here causing a scene just to get her attention. Once the police arrive, you'll be famous, all right, and your son," he sneered. "I bet he's some bastard you had with God knows what woman." "That was it," I snapped. I raised my hand and slapped him hard across the face. Ethan was stunned. "You hit me, you insult my son." "I hit you," I said, pointing at him. "Willow Hayes is my wife. You claim she's your girlfriend. When she gets here, we'll see who she chooses." Ethan was livid. "I think you've completely lost your mind." I just snorted, took out my phone and recorded a short video of them, which I immediately sent to Willow. "You'd better explain to me what the hell is going on." Willow didn't reply, nor did she appear. She didn't dare, but I was certain she would show up soon. Zane was dismissive. "Still putting on an act, everyone. Remember this face. You'll all be witnesses later." Ethan clutched his cheek, glaring daggers at me. Before long, the police arrived. The situation had escalated, and Willow came rushing out. "Who called the police? What's going on here?" an officer asked. "Officer, he crashed into my motorhome." Ethan pointed at me and launched into his attack, then threw himself into Willow's arms. "Darling, he smashed the motorhome you gave me. Look. He even hit me," Ethan whined, burying his face in her shoulder. Zane nodded vigorously. "That's right, Willow. This man has been harassing you, and now he's followed you here and wrecked your property. You have to make him pay." "The moment my son saw her," he cried out. "Mommy," a flash of panic crossed Willow's face. She didn't come over to us. Instead, she held Ethan tighter and shot me a pleading look. Seeing that, my heart sank. I knew everything. "Mommy, why are you hugging another man?" Julian asked. "Child, what are you doing?" Willow said sharply. "You can't just call any woman Mommy." Her words made my son freeze. He turned to look at me, his eyes welling up with tears. I stepped forward and wrapped my arm around Julian. "Willow Hayes, we have been married for 12 years. Our son is 10 years old. And now you're telling me you don't know us?" Willow's expression hardened. "I have a boyfriend. Don't spread malicious rumors." Then she moved closer, whispering so only I could hear, "Just give me some face here. Go home and I'll apologize. I'll admit I was wrong. But I can't be exposed in front of all these people, you two-timing witch, Willow. Using my money to build a career in the entertainment industry while carrying on with another man, lavishing him with gifts bought with my money. and then expecting me to swallow my pride and stay silent. I wouldn't stand for it. Ethan piped up again. He crashed my vehicle. I'm going to make sure he does serious jail time for this. Willow coughed lightly. Let it go. We all know each other. Let's just settle this peacefully. Ethan wouldn't have it. What are you afraid of? He did it on purpose. Yeah, we all saw it. He crashed it deliberately. We'll be your witnesses. That's right. Don't be scared. The police are here. We'll all testify for you. Willow grew visibly tense. Ethan, displeased, caught my mocking gaze and became even more enraged. Willow Hayes, what is the meaning of this? Willow quickly tried to placate him. It's nothing. I just feel bad for him, a man with a child. But since you insist, let's just have him pay for the damages. She turned to me. The motorhome was $500,000. Give me $15,000 and we'll call it even. The crowd erupted. What a big shot director. So magnanimous. Yeah, and you, sir, are shameless for chasing after a famous director like that. You're lucky she's not pressing charges. You should just apologize and be done with it. You got lucky, man. That could have cost you 10 times that. You should be grateful. Although Ethan was still unhappy, he looked smug. A wise man would apologize and pay up. Otherwise, you'll regret it. Hearing this, I couldn't help but laugh. I have to pay for crashing my own vehicle? On the other hand, how many years in prison and how much in fines should you get for stealing my vehicle? Ethan exploded. What are you talking about? What do you mean, your vehicle? I produced my identification and the purchase records for the motorhome and handed them to the police officer. Willow Hayes, you cheated on me during our marriage and used my property to buy your lover's affection today. In front of everyone, I am officially informing you we are getting a divorce. The officer carefully verified my documents, checked the motorhome's registration, and then nodded at me. The vehicle is indeed registered to you, sir. Ethan's world crumbled. He whipped his head around to look at Willow, then a twisted understanding dawned on his face. I get it. It must be you. You're the one obsessed with Willow, so you gave her this motorhome to win her over, right? Willow nodded frantically. Yes, that's it. I didn't want to be harassed by him, so I had no choice but to accept it. I never even used it myself. I gave it to my boyfriend. She turned to me. Mr. Grant, you've harassed me relentlessly, and today you went so far as to crash a vehicle just to force me to see you. I can't believe you'd do this. I almost laughed out loud. The sheer audacity of Willow Hayes was breathtaking. Willow said sternly, Sincere Grant, I know you run a massive corporation, but please don't humiliate me like this. Your actions will have repercussions for your company at the mention of my name. The crowd exploded again. Sincere Grant? He's the head of Grant Enterprises. Oh my God, I can't believe he's that Sincere Grant. Wait, what does Sincere Grant even see in her? Willow Hayes must be in her late 30s. Willow Hayes was a nobody, and then suddenly she was famous. There had to be a patron behind her. Turns out it was Sincere Grant all along. He's notoriously picky about looks. He must have fallen for her face. This is some serious tea. The crowd's opinions were now a mixed bag. I looked straight at Willow. Are you sure you want to speak to me like this? I've already told you, Mr. Grant, I will not accept any more of your financial support, she said primly, then lowered her voice again. Sincere, go home. If this gets any bigger, it won't be good for either of us. I scoffed and pulled out my phone. Get the team to the set, immediately, and cut all of Willow Hayes' resources. Everything. Willow's face contorted with rage. Sincere Grant, you're trying to blacklist me just because I rejected your advances. Her words whipped the crowd into a frenzy of righteous indignation. A corporate giant persecuting a director. He has no class. He's a menace to society. A blight on the world. Suddenly, an egg flew through the air. I quickly shielded Julian and dodged. Willow Hayes, I snarled. If you incite them to attack me, I will not let a single one of them go. The police are right here. Let's see who dares to make a move. The officer, not wanting a riot on his hands, shouted, Everyone, calm down. You'll go to jail for assault. They didn't dare step forward, but the air was thick with their vile curses. Julian finally burst into tears. I patted his shoulder and told him, "This is the first lesson society will teach you. Look at them. They lose all reason the moment someone manipulates them. But I wouldn't have come here if I was afraid. Willow Hayes, this is your last chance." She remained silent. I shook my head. She had just thrown away her final opportunity. She couldn't blame me for what came next. By now the film set was swarmed. More and more online influencers were arriving, eager to get the scoop. I wasn't worried at all. I had already asked my butler, Alfred, to bring our marriage certificate. Zane Miller stepped forward. "Mr. Grant, we know your family is powerful, but Willow has her own ambitions. Now that she has rejected you, you've had your fit and crashed the motorhome. Let's just call it even. From now on, please stop harassing Willow," Zane added with a sneer. "Yeah, you old man, take a look at yourself. You think you can just show up with your little bastard and try to extort us? I could tolerate their attacks on me, but I would not stand for them insulting Julian. Zane Miller, when you worked for my company, you were fired for cause your insults now constitute slander. Officer, my people will be here shortly with my marriage certificate to prove that she and I are husband and wife. I will not let this matter rest." Zane's face fell. Only a few insiders knew the real reason he was fired. He stared at me, his expression turning dark. Willow was furious. "Sincere, Grant, have you not caused enough trouble? I've already made myself perfectly clear." I slapped her across the face. "Who do you think you are to raise your voice at me? From this day forward, I am cutting all of your resources. As for our son, he has nothing to do with you, Willow Hayes. Ever again, I didn't come here today to negotiate a settlement. I came to deliver a formal notice." After the slap, Willow's tone changed completely. She grabbed my hand. "You know my career is just taking off." "Shut up, you make me sick." I flung her hand away. A moment later, a convoy of more than a dozen black cars pulled up, and the crowd parted to let them through. Leading the group was my company's legal team, followed by a squad of bodyguards and my butler, Alfred. They respectfully presented me with all the documents I needed. I took the marriage certificate and held it up for the cameras. "See this? Willow Hayes and I are legally married." As I flashed the certificate, Willow lunged for it, but my bodyguards immediately pinned her to the ground. Ethan's face went black. "Willow Hayes, you lied to me." "Oh, she didn't lie to you, Ethan Vance. You knew, didn't you? You even took my watch." Alfred handed me another document, a list, which I gave directly to the police. "This is a list of valuable items that have gone missing from my home." According to Mr. Vance's social media posts where he brags about his new acquisitions, those items happen to be the very same limited edition pieces from my collection. And Ethan, don't play the victim. You knew perfectly well Willow was married, yet you pursued a relationship with her anyway. The crowd was stunned into silence, then erupted. "So Ethan was the other man all along, knowing full well she was married, that old hag has no shame using her husband's money to spoil her boy toy, and then playing the innocent victim when her husband shows up. What an actress she really found her calling as a director. If that were me, I'd be too mortified to even speak in front of the wrong spouse. She even disowned her own son. What a piece of work. Something about that woman just seemed off. I'm glad I didn't take her side. Mr. Grant is truly on another level. Though his taste in women is questionable, picking up human garbage like her Willow's face was a horrifying shade of pale, as was Ethan's. Zane Miller was trying to slink away into the crowd. I simply pointed a finger, and a bodyguard went and dragged him back. He had done more than his share of instigating. He wasn't getting away that easily. I turned back to the police. "All the evidence is here. I demand the return of all my valuable property, and I wish to press charges against him for theft." Ethan panicked. "Sincere, Grant, you can't. Willow gave me these things. Is that so, Willow?" With a thud, Willow dropped to her knees before me. No, he stole them. Willow had turned on him in a heartbeat. Ethan stared at her, dumbfounded. What did you say?" "Willow Hayes, you bitch. You're the one who gave them to me. You told me Sincere Grant had money to burn, and that he'd never notice." If a few things went missing with that confession, everyone knew the whole story. So he knew she had a husband. Case closed. He's the other man. The pretty boy looks like he has a brain, but not a big one. Tisk, tisk. And he had the nerve to turn it all around and call her his girlfriend. Now it's just dogs eating dogs. Ethan covered his face, trying to block the cameras, but it was too late. The footage was already out there. The police promptly took all three of them away. At the station, my legal team handled the rest. My demands were simple. 1, divorce. 2, return of all assets. Every cent she had spent on Ethan Vance had to be paid back. Furthermore, when we got married, Willow had signed a prenuptial agreement. If she cheated, she wouldn't get a dime. With Ethan as a witness, she had no way out. At the station, Ethan dropped his pretty boy act. He lunged at Willow, scratching and hitting her. "Willow Hayes, you monster, when you met me, you implied I'd only get the role if I slept with you. Why else would I have looked twice at an old hag like you? You said all the right things when you were trying to seduce me, calling Sincere Grant an old man. Now that the truth is out, you're turning it around and saying I seduced you. You were living off Sincere Grant's money while fantasizing about me. Is there any man you've worked with in this industry that you haven't harassed? Now you're playing innocent? Not a chance. I won't let you get away with this." Ethan's revelations made Willow grit her teeth. "What nonsense are you spouting?" "It's not nonsense. I have all of our chat logs and a recording of our conversations." This made Willow panic. She never imagined he would have recorded her. Furious, she slapped him hard. Ethan's face swelled up, and enraged, he began brawling with her again. After they were finally pulled apart, he turned to me. "Sincere Grant, you're a real fool. The entertainment industry is full of women like Willow Hayes, and you actually wasted money on her." I shrugged. "I misjudged her. I won't be spending any more money on her." I placed the divorce papers on the table. Willow rushed over. "Honey, I was wrong. I really know I was wrong. Please forgive me. It was all him. He seduced me. Bullshit. You're the one who told me to come to your hotel room to discuss the role. You said you'd take care of me now. You say I seduced you? Take a look at yourself, you old hag. What is there about you worth seducing?" Ethan played a recording of a call from Willow, where she could be heard, clear as day, bluntly telling him to come to her room. There were even more explosive details. I shook my head from the sidelines. "Willow, save yourself some dignity. If this gets out, your career is over." Seeing her last hope crumble, Willow rushed over to Julian. "Julian, I'm your mother. Please talk to your father. Ask him to forgive me, okay?" Julian took a step back. "No, you're the one who told me not to randomly call people mommy. Why are you coming to me now?" "Ma'am, you've got the wrong person." Julian's words were like a sharp knife straight to her heart. She never imagined a child so young could hold such a grudge. Remembering how he had called out to her at the set, her face went white, her lips trembling. "Julian, it was all my fault. Mommy shouldn't have said that to you, but—" Julian grabbed my hand. "Dad, let's go. We can let the lawyers handle them from here." I nodded, and we prepared to leave. Willow scrambled after us like a madwoman. "No, don't go. It was all my fault. Please forgive me. I'll never do it again." She kept begging for forgiveness, but I had no desire to get entangled with her any further. I took Julian and left without a backward glance, leaving the rest to my legal team. I wanted nothing more to do with her. The incident caused a huge stir online, and I became a trending topic. Some said I had been the victim of a massive romance scam, a powerful CEO played by a woman. The video of my confrontation with Ethan outside the set became a source of ridicule. Sincere Grant has such high standards. When I pursued him, he turned me down and married some actress instead, thinking he'd found true love. Turns out she was just a cheating piece of trash. Oh please, the jealousy is dripping from your comment. At least Willow Hayes has a pretty face. What do you have? You're green with envy. Even if Sincere Grant picked up a piece of trash, getting rid of it is child's play for him. I've been saying it all along. Sincere Grant is not someone you can mess with. She thought she could have her fun on the side, but she messed with the wrong person. I seized the opportunity provided by all the media attention. launching my company's latest product and directly addressing the online chatter on my public profile. In the process of an amicable divorce. Not looking back. P.S. There are plenty of fish in the sea. If one doesn't work out, find another. My statement quickly caught the public's attention. Countless men cheered me on, and women even began propositioning me in the comments, posting their most alluring photos. My comments section turned into a massive beauty pageant, with some men even throwing their hats in the ring. Bro, don't be so rigid about gender. I'm available too. Sir, I'm a top university student. I can help tutor your kid, Mr. Grant. I'd love an internship at your company. Could you give me a chance? My resume is attached. My social media was more active than ever, and product sales skyrocketed. I had my HR department screen the promising candidates from the comments. I wasn't about to let a good crisis go to waste. I had already lost a woman. I wasn't going to lose a potential star employee. For years I had bankrolled Willow, but her career had remained lukewarm. Her eventual success as a director was something I had bought and paid for. Now I was going to get all that money back. Zane Miller and Ethan Vance were each detained for 5 days for public disturbance. After their release, Willow couldn't get a hold of me and started showing up at my office every day, begging for forgiveness. She refused to sign the divorce papers, but I didn't budge and kept all her resources frozen. Ethan sold off his assets, which amounted to a little over $500,000. He was new to the industry, having just gotten a break in one film before I made him the lead in Willow's movie. But because of this scandal, I pulled my funding, and the entire project went down the drain. Willow was on the hook for a massive sum, and Ethan was facing lawsuits as well. The two of them started camping out in front of my office building, but I refused to see them. One evening, however, I returned home to find Willow in my living room. I frowned. How did you get in here? We're not divorced yet. I'm still a part of this family. Sincere, why are you doing this? Pushing me to a dead end won't do you any good either. Give me $5 million and we'll go our separate ways. How about it? The fact that she still had the gall to ask me for money made me laugh. You think you have me cornered? $5 million. You've got some nerve. I don't know about cornered, but I know one thing. If you don't give me the money, I'll make sure none of us has a peaceful life. Sincere, you're not young anymore. You finally have me and a child. If you won't think about me, think about Julian. Having a mother like me will be a stain on his name. You don't want him to be ridiculed when he grows up. I hesitated, and seeing this, Willow pressed on. I'm not asking for much. $5 million is just pocket change for you. Just give it to me, and I'll disappear from your life forever. What do you say? Willow clearly didn't know my personality. I despise being threatened. When I first took over the company, some shareholders challenged me, looked down on me, threatened me. I endured it at the time, but then I carefully maneuvered and kicked every single one of them out. I swore then that I would never let anyone who threatened me get away with it. Now, Willow was using Julian's future to threaten me. My consideration wasn't about the money. It was about how to make her disappear from my life forever. Willow, however, thought my hesitation was about the $5 million. I suddenly smiled. Seeing my smile, Willow's face fell. Sincere, Grant, don't push me too far or I'll expose everything you've done. I raised an eyebrow. Oh, and what have I done? No one who walks by the river can avoid getting their shoes wet. A corporation as big as Grant Enterprises must have some gray areas, so that was her game. Fine, I'll give you the $5 million. I had changed my mind. I could give her the money, but she'd have to be alive to spend it. Seeing me agree, Willow was ecstatic. I had my lawyers amend the agreement on the spot, granting her the $5 million. When dealing with people like her, money was the cleanest solution, but a newly rich Willow wouldn't be able to re-establish herself in the entertainment industry so easily. I would, however, lead her right into a new investment. I had my people secretly set up a shell film production company and created a project designed to lure her in. Willow had suffered huge losses from the previous fiasco and was desperate to recoup her money. Ethan was still harassing her, but a reunion between them was impossible. Young, handsome actors were a dime a dozen in the industry, but few were interested in Willow now. She desperately needed a success to prove to everyone that her talent was real, not something bought by Sincere Grant. So when she was presented with the new script, she poured all $5 million into it without a second thought. I had my people monitor the funds. Once the $5 million was in the company's account, I washed my hands of it. The entire team was mine. Willow had no idea. Halfway through filming, she discovered the money was gone. Making a movie wasn't so simple. Before, I had always been the one bankrolling everything. Now that it was her own money, she couldn't make a single dollar stretch. She had a complete breakdown and came looking for me. I refused to see her. She then had the audacity to show up at Julian's school, which sent me into a rage. Willow knelt before me. I was wrong, Sincere. I know now that I'm nothing without you. Please give me one more chance. That money is all gone. I have nowhere else to turn. I can only beg you for the sake of me being Julian's biological mother, please. Just one more chance. She looked so pathetic, kneeling on the ground and begging me. Willow, do you think I'm a fool with more money than sense? No, I just know you can help me. Please, just help me. You're so rich. $5 million is nothing to you. Just a flick of your wrist, a drop in the bucket, and I can survive. I waved my hand, and my security guards dragged her out. Then I reported her for tax evasion. I held all the cards. Willow never imagined I could hate her so much as to nail her to a cross of public shame. The news of her arrest spread like wildfire, and the internet exploded once again. My God, I thought she was just stupid, but she's evil too. Truly stupid and evil. Sincere Grant didn't get off easy either. I heard he still gave her $5 million in the divorce settlement. I doubt it. When you peel a layer of skin off a rich man, you end up paying a much higher price. I don't believe for a second Sincere Grant would let her off that easily. I chose not to respond to the speculation. I had dealt with a major problem, and I had other things to attend to. For her crimes, Willow was sentenced to 10 years in prison. By the time she got out, Julian would be an adult, and I would no longer have to worry. As for Ethan Vance, he vanished from the public eye. The next time I saw him, he was selling products on a live stream. I was surprised to see he'd become a minor influencer, but unfortunately for him, the goods he was selling were counterfeit. Customers flooded him with complaints, and he was forced to pay out a huge sum in refunds. Buried in debt, he resorted to being a kept man, was publicly beaten up by the wife of one of his patrons, and his reputation was utterly destroyed. The last I heard, he was circulating among a group of wealthy older women. His life was ruined. And Zane Miller? Once I abandoned Willow, his fate was sealed. He tried to use his brief experience as a set hand to get jobs on other productions, but I had him blacklisted from the entire industry. He couldn't find work anywhere. He tried to see me once but was turned away by my bodyguards before he even got to the door. In the end, he had no choice but to return to his hometown. I focused all my energy on Julian. He was my only son, and I was raising him to be my successor. The following year, on that same long holiday weekend, I took Julian to a private island resort. Every year after that, we spent the holiday traveling together. 10 years later, Julian returned from his studies abroad, just as Willow was released from prison. It was Julian's 20th birthday. As I was hosting his celebration, I saw a woman from a distance, her back hunched, standing at the entrance. Her eyes were fixed on Julian in a daze. I grew wary and had my security take her to the underground garage. When I saw her up close, I was shocked. In 10 years, her hair had turned gray, and she was rail-thin, a gaunt and withered version of her former self. Seeing me, Willow begged, "I just want one look. I'll leave once I see he's okay. Please, I haven't seen Julian in 10 years. I miss him so much I had already run a check on her when I learned of her release. She was penniless, surviving by staging minor accidents to get money from people. Her motive for finding me now was obvious." I stared at her. "You said it yourself, Julian has nothing to do with you. He is my son, and my son alone. Willow, if it hadn't been for your face, I never would have been with you in the first place. Know when to quit. Leave now. I instructed my bodyguards to keep a close eye on her. Today was my son's 20th birthday, and I wouldn't let anyone ruin it. Willow looked at me but didn't dare meet my gaze or step forward. I knew she didn't have the guts. The memory of how thoroughly I had destroyed her must have haunted her in prison. She wanted to beg, but she couldn't find the words. At the birthday party, I officially announced Julian as the successor to Grant Enterprises and gave him our latest major project as a test. Julian did not disappoint. After half a year of hard work, he delivered results that exceeded my expectations. Later, he chose his own fiancée, Eleanor Smith, the heiress to the equally powerful Smith Industries. When I asked him about it, he said gravely, "For people like us, love is an illusion. Where the money is, that's where the love is. A suitable marriage alliance will ensure our company continues to prosper. She's beautiful, I'm handsome. Our children will certainly be exceptional. We are both highly educated. Genetically, it's the optimal match. And even if it doesn't work out down the line, my fortune will be more than enough to ensure the next generation never has to worry about a thing." Seeing Julian so level-headed, I felt at ease. With more free time, I began to reevaluate my own life. 10 years had passed, but I was not yet 50. I had kept myself in shape and looked a decade younger than my peers. Now that the company was in Julian's hands, I retired and began to pursue my own dreams and passions, sun, sand, and beautiful companions. I think the rest of my life is going to be just fine. The end. On our 10th wedding anniversary, my wife was fooling around with her first love in my house. My mom walked in on them and had a heart attack from the shock. She was rushed to the hospital and almost didn't make it. But my wife, Lillian, was completely unfazed. Caleb and I were just sitting a little close. "Can you stop being such a drama queen?" I was completely disillusioned with her and pulled out the divorce papers I'd already prepared. But after the divorce, she was filled with regret. Not only did she cut things off with her first love, but she also knelt at my mom's grave, begging for my forgiveness. Chapter 1. When I received the urgent call from the hospital about my mom's critical condition, I was picking out a 10th anniversary gift for my wife, Lillian. The doctor's voice was frantic. "Why is there no one with the patient?" "She's had a sudden, severe heart attack. You need to get here immediately to sign the consent forms for surgery." Hearing this, I suppressed the panic rising in my chest and sent a message to Lillian. She had the day off today. Wasn't she supposed to be with Mom? But the situation was urgent, so I didn't dwell on it. I floored it and sped to the hospital. Seeing my mother lying on the hospital bed, her face pale and haggard, barely breathing, was agonizing. But even after I'd signed the papers, Lillian hadn't replied. I called her, but a strange man's voice answered. "Lily's busy taking a shower right now. If you have a message, you can tell me first." I froze. Who is this? Where is Lillian right now? The man on the other end of the line chuckled, his tone becoming openly provocative. "You must be sincere, right? I'm Caleb Vance, Lillian's first love. We're at a hotel, of course. She wore herself out earlier, so she needs a good rest." He paused. Then, as if to make me believe him, he started a video call. The hotel bed was a mess, with clothes scattered everywhere. Lillian's clothes were strewn carelessly on the floor. Seeing it, my heart sank like a stone. I knew that in Lillian's heart, Caleb was the one that got away, an idealized love no one could compare to. He was brilliant and handsome, and had been with her throughout her youth. I had even seen with my own eyes the shy, undisguised love in her expression when she was with him. But Caleb had gone abroad for his studies during his sophomore year of college, and they had broken up. After being abandoned, Lillian had spiraled, even developing depression. I was the one who stayed by her side and helped her through it. But now Caleb had returned at some point, and they had gone to a hotel room behind my back. I was about to demand an explanation when in the next second Lillian appeared, wrapped in a bath towel. Facing the camera, she was completely unfazed. "I was just tired after a meeting and came here to lie down for a bit. Sincere, you'd better not make a scene." Even caught red-handed, Lillian was as calm as ever. She even had the gall to turn it around on me, telling me not to be dramatic. Looking at her impatient expression, a bitter sting filled my eyes. Mom had a sudden heart attack and is in the hospital. Why didn't you answer my messages? And what's that red mark on your neck? Lillian, do you even remember that today is our wedding anniversary? At my words, a flicker of guilt crossed her eyes. After all, just that morning, we had explicitly agreed to celebrate our anniversary together. But then she spoke again, her tone dismissive. What are you talking about? It's just a mosquito bite. Why are you so jealous over nothing? Besides, that's your mother, not mine. What good would messaging me do? With that, she hung up the phone. The screen froze on Caleb's provocative smile. When I tried to call back, she had already blocked me. Listening to the busy signal, my heart turned to ice. A short while later, the doctor emerged from the operating room. The patient is awake and stable for now. Okay, thank you, doctor. I quickly composed myself and rushed into the ward. Chapter 2. Mom was lying on the bed, her complexion still ashen. When she saw me, she managed a weak smile. Son, I made you worry. Seeing her like this, my nose tingled. Don't say that. As long as you're okay, that's all that matters. Mom nodded and started to say something else, but I stopped her. You just woke up. Whatever it is, it can wait until you've recovered. For some reason, a terrible premonition washed over me. I had a feeling that Mom's collapse had something to do with Lillian. At my insistence, she didn't say any more, quietly closing her eyes to rest. The doctor then called me out and instructed me that Mom should only have liquid foods for now. The hospital cafeteria is pretty crowded right now. You could drive around and find something nearby. I gave him a grateful smile, told Mom I'd be back, and drove off to buy her some soup. But, as fate would have it, I ran right into Lillian and Caleb, who were having a meal. When she saw me, her brow furrowed. Sincere, are you following me? I already told you, Caleb and I are just friends. Can you stop looking for trouble? I thought my heart was already dead and buried. But hearing her words, it began to ache uncontrollably again. It felt as if a hand was squeezing my throat, and the feeling of suffocation made my head spin. I forced down my emotions and explained, Mom is in the hospital nearby. I was just coming to get her some food. I wasn't following you. Beside her, Caleb smiled. What a coincidence. Why don't we go visit Auntie Harrison together in a bit? Lillian hesitated, but after a glance at Caleb, she agreed. I wanted to refuse, but Caleb was already ushering me along. In the car, she and Caleb sat in the back. They started flirting and joking, completely ignoring my presence. They reminisced about their past, and I couldn't get a word in. You used to be so clingy, always forcing me to say I loved you before you'd leave me alone, Caleb said deliberately, shooting a provocative glance at me in the rearview mirror. Lillian gave a dry laugh, but didn't deny it. The atmosphere grew increasingly awkward. When we arrived at the hospital, my mother's calm expression instantly turned to one of agitation the moment she saw them. Mom pointed a trembling finger at Lillian, her words broken and gasping. You bitch, you cheated on him. And you still have the nerve to come here hearing that I stood frozen to the spot. No wonder. My mom had been in perfectly good health. Now she was like this. And Lillian, who was supposed to be resting at home on her day off, had been at a hotel. That bad feeling intensified. I couldn't take it anymore. I turned and demanded of her, What were you and Caleb doing at our house? Are you the reason Mom is like this? Lillian rolled her eyes. Caleb and I were just sitting a little close, that's all. How was I supposed to know your mom would end up like this? And what's with this interrogation? Don't you trust me? If that's the case, let's just get a divorce hearing that. I nodded decisively. Fine. Let's do it. Before, she always used divorce as a threat. I cherished her, so every time I had no choice but to surrender. But now I had completely lost the will to coax her anymore. Since she and Caleb were so blatant, I might as well grant them their wish. The atmosphere turned ice cold. Caleb stepped in to mock me. All right, it's just a small thing. If you make such a scene, you'll just be a laughingstock. Lily has been with you for so many years. She's truly devoted to you. I finally snapped. Who the hell do you think you are? "Lillian, take him and get the hell out. Don't be an eyesore in front of my mother." I had always spoken to Lillian gently. I had never yelled at her like this. She stared at me, her eyes wide with shock. Caleb also stood there, stunned, as if terrified by my reaction. "Sincere, I'm warning you, stop this act. If you keep it up, I'll really be done with you." Lillian's voice was full of impatience, as if she'd reached her limit. "Are you deaf? Didn't you want a divorce? If we're getting a divorce, then let's talk about that. Cut the damn bullshit." It was the first time I had ever spoken to her so harshly. A flicker of shock crossed Lillian's eyes and her chest heaved, but her face remained strangely calm. "I don't know what's gotten into you, but I'll let it slide this time. As for the divorce, I'll just pretend I never heard it. You and your mom get some rest. I'm leaving." After she left, I immediately opened the feed from the security cameras at home. I'd installed pinhole cameras in various corners for security. I never thought they would come in handy like this. The moment I turned it on, the sounds of a man and a woman in the throes of passion filled the air. Chapter 3. I stared at the footage, my face ashen. After I left that morning, Lillian had immediately called Caleb over. They shamelessly had sex in our bedroom, then moved to the living room. My mother, knowing it was our anniversary, had come over specifically to cook a celebratory meal for us, but she had walked in on their affair. In that instant, the shock sent her into cardiac arrest, and she collapsed to the floor. But Lillian and Caleb had calmly and unhurriedly gotten dressed before casually walking out to see her. They even ignored my mother's pleas for help, standing over her body to discuss how they would handle me. With this happening, that old hag can't stick around. Yeah, if anyone's to blame, it's her for having such bad luck. They deliberately delayed, only calling 911 after a while before leaving directly for the hotel. If the doctor hadn't called me, my mother would have been left to die. "Mom, don't you worry. I will make them pay." After turning off the recording, I sat by my mother's side, gripping her hand tightly. I was terrified of her suffering any more shocks. But Mom could no longer speak. She could only look at me, tears streaming down her face. I stayed by her side until she fell asleep, then stepped out to call my lawyer. I told him to draft a divorce agreement for me immediately. For 10 years, I had given Lillian everything she ever wanted. The result was that in her eyes, I was nothing more than a doormat, a simp with no dignity. Recalling her attitude today, the last shred of hope I'd been clinging to finally vanished. But just then, Caleb's voice came from behind me. He handed me a piece of paper, looking at me with a taunting expression. I couldn't say this in front of Lily. The truth is, she's pregnant with my child. If you have any sense, you'll back off gracefully. Don't keep pestering her. It's annoying. I was completely stunned. This paper. It was Lillian's pregnancy report. I couldn't believe it. She was pregnant with Caleb's child. In the past, Lillian had always said she was still young and adamantly refused to have children, and I could only respect her wishes. For 10 years, I watched as my colleagues all showed off their kids on social media. All I could do was watch with envy. Now it seemed she just didn't want to have a child with me. Caleb had barely been back, and she had thrown herself at him, eager to be intimate. A wave of nausea washed over me, as if I'd swallowed a fly. I wanted nothing more than to punch Caleb in the face. Caleb leaned casually against the window, mocking me. "So what if you were married for 10 years? The moment I came back, didn't she still choose me without hesitation?" He was utterly confident, his tone dripping with disdain. But I knew it was Lillian who gave him that confidence. My hands clenched into fists, and a storm of negative emotions threatened to drown me. But the sharp pain in my palms brought me back to my senses. Making a scene here would only humiliate me further. I took the pregnancy report and put it away. I was already planning to leave her. "Thanks for bringing me the evidence. I'll file for divorce and make sure she leaves with nothing." Caleb's face darkened. "You dare? What kind of man are you, to use this to threaten her?" Lillian must have painted me as a complete pushover to him. He clearly never expected me to react this way. "You two did the deed. What are you afraid of now?" Ignoring him, I turned to go back to the hospital room. Chapter 4. The next second, Caleb grabbed my collar. He patted my cheek, his tone laced with impatience. Can't we just part amicably? Leave each other with some dignity. Don't make Lily hate you completely. Besides, this alone isn't enough to make her leave with nothing. In the end, you'll be the one who's embarrassed. He didn't know that Lillian and I had signed a prenuptial agreement before our wedding. At the time, Lillian had even made me swear I would never betray her. Now, ironically, it was being used against her. Don't touch me. What I do is none of your business. I shoved Caleb away, my voice a low warning. Seeing this, Caleb didn't follow. He shot me a venomous look, spat out a "just you wait," and left. When I returned, I was relieved to see my mom was still asleep. She must never find out about this. The consequences would be unimaginable. Just then, my lawyer sent over the drafted divorce agreement. I immediately forwarded it to Lillian. Sign this, and we'll set a date to finalize the divorce. She quickly replied with a question mark. Sincere, are you serious? Can you please not make a scene like this? Just because Mom is sick, doesn't that mean I'm not upset too? I will absolutely not get a divorce. You can forget it. Reading her messages, I just felt utterly disgusted. You're already pregnant with Caleb's child. Why are you still clinging to me? This divorce is happening, period. After that, I set her notifications to silent. I wouldn't be her fool any longer. If necessary, I would sue her directly. By the afternoon, my mother's condition had more or less stabilized. I went out to gather more evidence to strengthen my case for the divorce, but I never imagined that Caleb would show up at the hospital to cause trouble again. When I got the call from the caregiver, my mind went blank. Sincere, you have to get back to the hospital. Quick, some guy just came and told your mom that your wife is pregnant and the baby isn't yours. Your mom was so upset she fainted on the spot. They're trying to revive her now. Hearing this, I drove like a madman back to the hospital. But what I saw was my mother's cold, lifeless body. Mom, I knelt in the morgue and squeezed my eyes shut in despair. The doctor had said she would be fine, that she could go home after a few more days of rest. How could this happen? I was only gone for a short while now. I no longer had a mother. A thick, dark hatred rose within me. I wanted nothing more than to take a knife and kill Caleb and Lillian right now. My mom had promised me she would always be with me. I had even lied to her, telling her she'd get to hold her long-awaited grandchild this year. She had suffered her whole life and hadn't gotten to enjoy much of the good life with me. And in the end, she had to endure this. My heart felt like it was being squeezed in a tight fist. The pain was so raw. It wasn't until a nurse noticed my state and gave me a nitroglycerin pill that I slowly began to calm down. Don't destroy yourself over this. Your mom wouldn't want to see you truly hurt yourself. Because Caleb hadn't kept quiet, the story had already spread through the hospital. The nurses looked at me with deep sympathy. Once I had composed myself, I immediately took out my phone and contacted a private investigator. I told him to dig up everything he could on Caleb. I needed to know all his weaknesses so I could strike him down in one blow. He killed my mother. I would make sure he never knew a moment of peace for the rest of his life. In the days I spent arranging my mother's funeral, Lillian didn't call once. Instead, she was off traveling and having fun with Caleb. Not only that, but Caleb posted on his social media a gift of shares from the one I love most. It feels so good to be trusted. I clicked on it and saw that Lillian had given him 5% of her company's shares. I let out a small, cold laugh and liked the post. I was the largest shareholder in Lillian's company. In the beginning, I had worked tirelessly, negotiating contracts and securing investments to support her. Now that the company was just starting to take off, she wanted Caleb to reap the benefits. It was clear just how much she had invested in him. After finishing my mother's funeral arrangements, I called my lawyer again. I decided to withdraw all of my investments from Lillian's company. If I was going to make a clean break, I would sever every last tie with my own hands. I didn't care how she wanted to dote on Caleb. What mattered was that my assets would not suffer any losses. Chapter 5. When I went to the company with my lawyer, I happened to walk in on Lillian and Caleb getting intimate in the break room. Her belly was slightly swollen. She was clearly 2 or 3 months along. I glanced at Caleb, and it took everything I had not to punch him. If he hadn't gone to my mother and spouted his nonsense, she would still be alive. When Lillian found out I was there to pull my investments, she lost all composure and started screaming. "Sincere, what is the meaning of this? Our company is about to go public. Your sudden withdrawal will have a huge impact on us." I looked at her indifferently. "We've already said we're separating. We can't have our finances still entangled after we've made a clean break, can we?" Lillian froze for a moment. Then she looked up at me in disbelief. "Sincere, how dare you talk to me like that?" In my eyes, she had once been a goddess, but now I was done indulging her. I turned away and took the transfer agreement from my lawyer's hands, telling Lillian to sign. But Lillian's mood strangely calmed. She looked at me and suddenly said, "I get it. You're acting like this because you want my attention, don't you? It's only been a few days and you've already learned to play games." Her words were so absurd that even my lawyer couldn't help but roll his eyes. I waved a dismissive hand. "I'm at this point and you still think I'm playing games with you? Try using your brain for once. Hurry up and sign. We can get the divorce finalized while we're at it. It'll save me the trouble later." Seeing my resolute attitude, Lillian's eyes suddenly turned red. "Fine, I'll sign, just don't you regret it, but I will never agree to a divorce. You can give up on that idea she knew about our prenup and that she would be the one to lose out. That's why she was acting this way." After the transfer agreement was settled, I was about to leave. But Caleb's mocking voice rang out from behind me. "Some people are just cheapskates, right down to their bones. If I were him, I would have just gifted you these shares. Why go through all this trouble of withdrawing investments? Isn't it disgusting?" Hearing that, I could no longer control my anger. I threw a punch straight at him. Caleb was caught off guard and my fist instantly gave him a bloody nose. Lillian rushed to help him up, shooting me a venomous glare. "Sincere, you've gone too far." I looked at them with contempt. "A gigolo who sleeps his way to the top has no right to talk to me like that." I had already dug up all of Caleb's secrets. His family had gone bankrupt overseas and he had only come back to find a sucker to bail him out. And Lillian was foolishly still under the impression that Caleb was the same rich kid he used to be. At this, Lillian was furious. She stepped in front of me, raising her hand to slap me. But I caught her wrist. I narrowed my eyes and looked at her coldly. "I won't hit you, seeing as you're a pregnant woman. But if there's a next time, don't blame me for not being so courteous." Lillian winced in pain and had to let go. "Sincere, how could you become like this?" I let out a sneer. "Before you were my wife, so I let you have your way. Now that we're getting divorced, who the hell do you think you are?" With that, I left with my lawyer. I didn't look back, no matter how much Caleb and Lillian tried to provoke me from behind. Chapter 6. After returning, I immediately filed a lawsuit against Lillian. She wouldn't agree to a divorce, but I wasn't going to waste my time with her. Every extra day felt like another dose of poison. During this period, she called me countless times, and I blocked every number. On the day of the hearing, I came prepared with ample evidence. The outcome was as I had hoped. The court ruled that Lillian would leave the marriage with nothing. Now, apart from a shell of a company, she had nothing. Walking out of the courthouse, Lillian clutched her belly and looked at me with red-rimmed eyes. "Sincere, after all these years, it's not like I had no feelings for you. If Caleb hadn't shown up, I would have been willing to spend the rest of my life with you." I waved my hand dismissively. "Spending a lifetime with you? That doesn't sound like a good thing." Lillian pouted and got into Caleb's car. After the beating I gave him, he had learned his lesson and remained silent. He only gave Lillian a complicated look as she lamented her fate. Back home, I stared at my mother's photograph. Letting them off so easily was impossible. So I set a trap. I had someone pass a message to Lillian, saying an investor was interested in her company. The condition was that she had to put up her company as collateral. Lillian quickly took the bait, begging the middleman for a chance to meet me. A few days later, Lillian booked a private room at a fancy hotel. When I arrived, Lillian was stunned. How could it be you?" She quickly recovered, her expression turning ugly. "Are you doing this just to laugh at me?" I slowly sipped my wine. "I'm here to let you see the real Caleb." With that, I tossed a file onto the table in front of her. Beside her, Caleb panicked and tried to snatch the documents, but it was too late. Lillian's lips began to tremble uncontrollably. She looked at Caleb in disbelief. "You're already married in England?" Suddenly, I found the whole thing tedious. That file contained all sorts of information, proof that Caleb had sold off shares and leaked false company secrets, but the only thing Lillian focused on was that he was married. It seemed she was truly serious about him, but I wasn't there to witness their true love, so I added more fuel to the fire. I played a recording of what Caleb had said the last time he was drunk. "I never liked Lillian. An old, plain-looking hag like her isn't even fit to shine my shoes. I was just playing along with her because she liked me and was willing to spend money on me." Lillian stood up and slapped Caleb across the face. "Were those your real feelings?" Her hands were shaking, her eyes filled with disappointment. "I gave up so much for you, even my family. Why would you betray me?" At this point, Caleb dropped the act. He sneered and gave Lillian a hard shove. "I've been sick of your old lady smell for a long time. If you weren't still of some use to me, what makes you think a guy with my options would stick around with you?" With that, Caleb rushed out of the private room. He left a bewildered Lillian on the floor, crying her heart out. I watched their little drama unfold in silence, feeling nothing but a grim satisfaction. After a decade of partnership and shared life, she had refused to believe in my character, choosing to trust Caleb instead. Now that she'd been duped, she had no one to blame but herself. "Did you ever think this day would come when you two let my mom die? It seems your love wasn't so strong after all." After taunting her for a bit, I prepared to leave. But in the next second, Lillian's face contorted in terror. "It hurts." My stomach hurt so much I turned to see a large pool of blood spreading beneath her. Chapter 7. I gave her a cold glance, then sat back down. Lillian crawled towards me, begging me to call 911. I shook my head, my voice dripping with vengeance. "Lillian, when my mom was having a heart attack and begging you for help, she was in this much pain too. So, you can just bear with it for a while." A flash of hatred crossed Lillian's eyes, but I had taken her phone, and she was helpless. Eventually, after a large amount of blood had pooled on the floor, Lillian fainted. Of course, I wasn't going to let her actually die. After confirming she was still breathing, I calmly called for an ambulance. Because of the delay, her baby couldn't be saved. In the end, she even had to have her uterus removed. Only after hearing this news did I leave the hospital with a sense of closure. Lillian had paid the price for her actions. Next, it was Caleb's turn. I called all of his creditors and gave them his address. I also exposed his fraudulent activities online. Before this, Caleb had been running a social media account, building a following by flaunting his wealth. Little did his fans know, most of what he showed off in his videos was bought with high-interest loans. This time, he was in for a world of hurt, and Lillian's company, plagued by scandal, went completely bankrupt. Lillian became a destitute pauper. The next time I saw her, she was a shadow of her former polished self. She looked gray and disheveled, her hair looking like it hadn't been washed in 3 days. She knelt beside me, begging me to help her. "Sincere, I personally sent Caleb to prison. I know you hate him. I've atoned for my sins." I looked at her coldly, my heart completely still. "Why are you telling me this? I already know." I had been following Caleb's case closely. I knew every detail. Before he went to prison, I had people beat him up and slash his face with a knife. From now on, even if he gets out, he won't be able to rely on his looks to get by. Lillian lowered her head and said timidly, "I want to ask you for a chance. Can we start over?" I looked at Lillian, feeling not a flicker of emotion. When we were the only two left in the room, I suddenly felt an overwhelming aura of sorrow clinging to her. Lillian looked at me, defeated. Then I let out a self-deprecating laugh. She said she loved me? She actually loved me? Then, what was all the humiliation and coldness I had endured? Her plea for reconciliation was nothing but a joke to me now. I stood up, walked to the window with my back to her, and said in an icy voice, "You killed my mother, you destroyed everything I had, and now you want me to take you back?" Hearing my words, Lillian's face turned deathly pale. She said in a trembling voice, sincere, "I know I was wrong. I really know I was wrong. I've already atoned." I turned around, my gaze as sharp as a knife. "Do you know how much pain my mother was in? Do you know how much she hoped you would come to your senses?" Lillian's eyes turned red. She lowered her head, tears dripping continuously onto the floor. I took a deep breath, trying to calm the rage in my heart. "Leave. I don't want to see you again." At my words, Lillian looked up, her eyes filled with despair. "Sincere, I won't leave, please. Give me a chance. Can we start over? I'm willing to go to Mom's grave and beg for her forgiveness, beg her to give me a chance." The next day, Lillian actually went to my mother's grave. She stood before the tombstone, her face pale, her eyes filled with fear and remorse. She then said in a trembling voice, "Mrs. Harrison, I really know I was wrong. Please give me a chance. Let Sincere and me start over, please." Her voice echoed in the empty cemetery, sounding exceptionally desolate. Tears streamed down her face, soaking the front of her shirt. I stood at a distance, watching her silently, my heart completely unmoved. I knew she had paid the price for her actions, but I still couldn't forgive her. Lillian's voice grew softer and softer, until it was nearly inaudible. Her body grew weaker and weaker, until she finally collapsed to the ground. Chapter 8. I ignored her and told my driver to leave. A short while later, it started to rain. Lillian woke up and called me. She was soaking wet, her face pale and sick. Meanwhile, I was sitting at home, eating a hot meal. "Do you see now? I really have no feelings for you. Even if you died, I wouldn't shed a single tear." After saying that, I hung up before Lillian could reply. I immediately contacted a real estate agent to sell the house and move. From now on, I wanted nothing more to do with Lillian. I quickly found a new house, moved out, and started a new life. This new home was far from the shadows of the past, filled with sunlight and hope. Every morning, I would drink a cup of coffee on the balcony, enjoying the fresh air and warm sun. This new life felt more relaxed and free than ever before. Although I still thought of my mother sometimes, most of the time, I felt at peace. Lillian, undeterred, tried to contact me, but I blocked every attempt. She started sending frequent text messages, calling, and even waiting outside my house, but I never responded. One day she finally cornered me at the door of my new home, her eyes filled with pleading and despair. "Sincere, please, give me a chance. Can we start over?" Her voice trembled, her eyes glistening with tears. I looked at her coldly, my heart completely still. "Lillian, it's over between us. Go away. I don't want to see you again." "Sincere, I'm sorry. I just beg you, please don't hate me." I looked into her deep, sorrowful eyes. There was a time I wanted to lose myself in those eyes for a lifetime. But now, her tears had become an ocean, creating an uncrossable chasm between us. We were destined to remain on opposite shores. "I don't hate you. I just want to leave you and forget you." She wanted to say more, but I had already turned and closed the door. Listening to her heart-wrenching cries from outside, my heart didn't waver in the slightest. I knew I had truly let go of the past. Not long after, I met someone new, 100 times more beautiful than Lillian. Her name was Victoria Grant, and she was a gentle and kind woman. We met at a friend's party. When she smiled, her eyes would curve into crescents, radiating an incredible warmth. Chapter 9. I later found out that Victoria and I had gone to the same university. She had known who I was back then and even had a secret crush on me. I was just a nobody back then, of course you wouldn't have noticed me. But now, I've finally reached a place where I can stand by your side. I looked up and met her earnest, clear eyes. As we looked at each other, I felt my heart begin to race. It was a feeling I had never experienced, not even in the countless times Lillian had professed her love for me. Victoria asked me out a few times, and our impression of each other grew better and better. I also got to know her more. After graduating, she started her own business and was now quite successful. At the same time, she was deeply committed to charity work. She had sponsored no fewer than 10 students through their education. She had also adopted several scruffy-looking dogs, all of them strays she had found on the street. When I saw the before pictures of those now chubby dogs, I was stunned. She had taken these skeletal little creatures and filled them with flesh and blood through love. Unconsciously, I found myself falling for her completely. Victoria's warmth was exactly what I, prickly and wounded from so much hurt, was lacking. Slowly, I began to be the one to ask her out. We would go shopping together, or do nothing at all, just chatting idly, and it was always easy and pleasant. Lillian ran into me with Victoria a few times when she came to plead for another chance. She would hysterically demand an explanation, and I would send her away. When did your taste get so bad? How is she better than me? Who I'm with is my business. It's not for you to comment on. Lillian completely broke down. But I still love you. What do you want me to do? But the truth is, I don't love you anymore. To me, you're like a toy that fell into a cesspool, filthy and stinking. Maybe you were precious once, but now I don't even want to touch you to throw you in the trash, because I find you disgusting. Do you understand? I was furious at that moment, my only thought to defend Victoria. When I turned and met Victoria's smiling eyes, I belatedly realized my own feelings. Lillian left, dejected, her steps unsteady. But I still felt nothing. Meanwhile, Victoria and I grew even closer. Our interactions became more and more intimate, and our mutual friends all knew about our relationship. They would often tease us. "Vicky is a good girl. You'd better not break her heart." I would just look at her, surrounded by the crowd, and think how lovely she was. Later, on my birthday, Victoria confessed her feelings to me. She had carefully prepared a gift for me, which even included a photo of me from our university days. A teenage crush that had lasted a decade, proven with the most earnest and simple gesture. My nose tingled, and I quietly put the photo away. "Sincere, you look especially handsome today," Victoria said with a smile, her eyes full of affection. I smiled back and took her hand. "That's because you're by my side." At my words, Victoria blushed and lowered her head, murmuring, "Sincere, I really, really like you." "Me too, Vicky." I looked at her affectionately, my heart filled with happiness and contentment. Amid the cheers of our friends, I watched her, shy with her head down, and a sweet feeling filled my heart. After that, we went to the movies together, traveled together, and shared all the little moments of our lives. Every day was filled with laughter and sweet memories. She also learned about what happened with my mother and would always offer to come with me to visit her grave. She even hired someone to regularly tend to my mother's resting place. "It wasn't your fault. Mom would definitely want you to be happy." Whenever my grief resurfaced, Vicky would patiently comfort me. She would even take me to my mother's grave and encourage me to talk. For some reason, I had a feeling that my mother would have been very pleased with Victoria, but regardless, I knew I had found true happiness. And all of this was something Lillian could never have given me. Another 6 months passed, and Victoria and I officially got married. We invited all our friends and family. On the wedding day, I thought I saw Lillian's figure flash in the distance. But the sunlight was too bright, and I couldn't see clearly. In the end, it didn't matter if it was her or not, because I had already met the person I would truly spend the rest of my life with. For the rest of my days, my life would be brilliant and happy, and she would no longer be a part of it.